Welcome, everyone. Today, I have another one of my clients with me, and with Hayden, we've actually done body transformation where when he came to me, he was fat, he had a belly, and then he got straight ripped. So, we're going to talk about that journey. We're going to talk about the mindsets, we're going to talk about the struggles. You're going to meet Hayden. Hello, Hayden. Welcome.
What's up, Chad? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you for coming on. So Hayden wanted to come on to kind of show you guys that like the process works and also to inspire you. And yeah, we'll just jump right into this kind of journey of getting ripped. So before we start, I want to kind of put context to this conversation. So you guys know me for dating advice, right? But you also see that I've started to talk more about, hey, you need to look good with your shirt off. And a mistake a lot of guys are making is you guys are thinking, oh, Jad is talking about fitness. We're not that superficial. Hayden's not that superficial. This is a lot deeper than just fitness. What we're ultimately doing here is loving ourselves, building such a high level of self love and self pride that when we walk around in a business setting or a social setting, we're walking in feeling like $1 million, feeling like girls would be lucky to be with us, and just feeling proud of the man you are. So, yes, we're talking about getting ripped, or in other words, losing fat until you see your abs. But the core message is what kind of man do I need to become in order to achieve this very hard goal? Okay? So that's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about fitness and abs and that superficial stuff. We're talking about the challenge of doing something that most of the population will never achieve, a six pack, because it requires you to become a different type of man, the 10.0 version of you or the next version of you. Okay, so Hayden, let's start. Can you kind of remind me and maybe just tell the audience, like at the beginning when you started the program and you were overweight, like you weren't crazy overweight, but you had a belly, you had maybe some love handles. What was going on at that time?
At that time, I remember it was like the summer of maybe it was 23 or maybe 24. I can't exactly remember, but I remember you were starting a new program, Body Transformation. We're about like counting calories, getting on a macronutrient plan, and basically becoming like that 10.0 version of yourself. And I was looking at the email that you sent because I've been subscribed to your newsletter now for a long time, and I'm like, that looks like it probably is really going to suck in the beginning, but if I can get back to like being in like super shape, like how I was when I was in like late high school, like throughout high school and then early college, that would just be awesome because I was seeing myself in the mirror at that time, and I was kind of like, oh, and I know you've talked about this, like, oh, I'm just getting older. This is just what happens to your body when you get older. You start to lose some of that physique. It's just part of the process. And I was just kind of just lying to myself, and I was just using a kind of excuse that society is saying is okay. And then when I saw that you were doing that program, I was like, I should probably do this because it's going to be challenging. And at the end of it, if I can get my body into better shape, that's just going to boost my overall confidence. So I knew it was going to suck and I knew it was going to take a long time, but I was kind of curious to see, can I do this? And I know I should do this. And he's given me the opportunity, so I might as well pursue this. And that's kind of where I was when I was just sort of reading that email.
Nice, nice. So let's talk about the suck. I really like how you put that. Like, this is gonna suck, right? So, yes, getting abs means you're gonna be hungry, you're gonna battle with fatigue, you're gonna be what I call hangry, which is hungry and angry and tired, right? One thing I want you all to know about Hayden is that he's really deep into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and he's always been um, challenging himself in different areas of life and sports and stuff like that. And that's one thing that's really missing these days in our society as men, is that men are too soft and men are running towards things that break them down, comfort. So the video games, the porn, the social media, the compulsive use of your phone. And another big comfort piece is the food. Food, everybody's saying, oh, I'm so tough, I'm so tough. My favorite question is, how tough are you if you can't even control the food you put in your own mouth? So, Hayden, I want you to share with the guys kind of like your philosophy in life, why you go towards like really difficult things such as getting ripped. Later, we're going to talk about like Hayden got ripped, like single digit body fat. Why you do like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is notoriously very hard and full of failure. Just kind of share like what's your mindset and your philosophy around doing hard things.
Yeah, well, I'd say if you look like throughout history, you look at people like maybe like Winston Churchill or like I believe even Teddy Roosevelt. He was a very weak and sickly child growing up, but then he found sports like wrestling when he was young, and I think he pretty much religiously started wrestling in high school. And I'm pretty sure he grew up in a privileged family, and a lot of privileged families do not look kindly upon sports like that, like grappling and stuff or wrestling. But he
Am I correct to remember that you also did wrestling?
Yeah, that's my camp shirt back there. I wrestled
Wow.
in high school. I did it a little in middle school. I found a lot of really important mental. Like my coach from when I wrestled in high school, he trained me for camp. He had a very difficult career as a wrestler, but he just pushed through adversity and became All American. And he was a big part of my inspiration to challenge myself because it's like, it's like if you don't challenge yourself and do hard things in your life, you're not going to be ready for the other small challenges, whether they be at work, whether they be in seduction, whether they be in other areas of your life. And I kind of think of it like if you're playing like a video game on easy, life becomes very boring and meaningless if that challenge isn't there. Could there be a little less challenge in certain areas? Sure, but if there's no challenge, then there's no purpose for you to drive towards. So that's a big thing. And yeah, I am noticing too that there's a lot more men that are softer now, and they're not focusing on trying to do difficult and uncomfortable things. And that's really the only way, I think, to regulate your mood, to regulate your body. And it's so important that we do uncomfortable things and kind of get into discomfort, because ultimately, in the long term, it's going to make us stronger people. But that's kind of where I come from. And a lot of that kind of, I think, just came from the mentors I had growing up, who've been through a lot of physical adversity as well as emotional and financial. They kind of taught me that, like, and especially you, Jad, like, I always think of that line, like, seek discomfort. That's a really big one for me. Like, when I'm really tired too in the car going to the gym, I'll roll the windows down, blast music, and get that cold air on my face, just because it's like, first of all, I need to wake up because I don't want to crash. But number two is I want that discomfort because I know at the end of the day that's going to make me stronger and that's going to make me different. Does it suck in the moment? Yes, but it also makes pleasure when you have it 10 times better, because you're depriving yourself of it for so long and then coming back to it in a way where it's like, wow, this is awesome, and it's because you earned it.
Yeah, and one thing that I say is like physical discomfort creates spiritual comfort or spiritual pleasure. So a mistake a lot of guys are making in this society is it's like, oh, I'm brokenhearted, I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm frustrated, whatever. Let me turn to Netflix, porn, social media, basically everything comfortable, right? Overeating. But what you don't realize is that you're just creating more pain for yourself, because what follows all those negative habits is regret. So now not only does your life suck, not only did that girl dump you, but now on top of that, you're ashamed of yourself for all the porn you watched, all the food you ate, how shitty you look with your shirt off. So you just made yourself weaker when you were already dealing with a problem. Whereas what Hayden is saying, and yeah, I wish I remembered that earlier, like wrestling is notoriously also one of the hardest sports in the world. And if someone's a wrestler, you automatically know they're tough motherfuckers, right? Like that's like the base. Like a lot of famous UFC fighters, the champions were champions because they started with the wrestling, right? So what I want what the message I've been trying to deliver to everyone is it, what you're chasing, which is, okay, let's say you're chasing pleasure, but chase the spiritual pleasure of being proud of yourself because you went through the suck. Okay, Hayden always shares with us like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Also, I have my best buddy Stefan. We have Pedro on the call. We have like you get submitted for the first year or two. Like you just get your ass handed to you endlessly, and it teaches you how to deal with failure and adversity, but keep going, right? And seduction is very similar. Like you guys give up too easily on the game. Don't let the game defeat you just because it handed you your ass, when you first tried it. No, you got to keep going. We all got rejected and embarrassed and struggled with women before we finally figured it out. So coming back to the topic today of getting a six-pack, you have to limit your calories. You have to count your calories. Oh, Jad, I don't want to count my macros. Oh, that's going to make my life miserable. No. What's going to make your life miserable is looking in the mirror and looking like shit. That's what makes your life miserable. So with that, I want to take us back, Hayden, to the times where you were following your macros, let's say Monday to Thursday or Monday to Friday, but then because society programs us so much like, oh, it's Friday, oh, it's Saturday, oh, it's the weekend, you'd like completely go off and like overeat or even sometimes drink or whatever. So kind of tell us the story of what struggle you came up with when it came to that.
Yeah, so I mean that is still a tough one in certain scenarios, but and you're right, it is so much of that is programming. Like you see everyone in the movies or even like around your hometown at 5 o'clock, they're grabbing a drink, they're getting fast food, they're eating all this junk, and it's a lot of things too. I notice when I don't get really good sleep, which is all the time now, my will is much weaker, and I'm like, oh, that donut in the break room looks delicious. The light is glistening over its glaze, and it's calling out to me. And there is definitely times where that's where it's really, I think, the toughest is where it's like, oh my god, it's right there, I can have it. Like it's, but yeah, that was definitely the hardest part, I think, and it still is a struggle. Like I'm not gonna bullshit and say that like I don't still struggle with that. I feel like you always are, but that is definitely the toughest part, is to kind of control the calorie intake on the weekends, because we're all pre-programmed to want to just relax and not worry about anything at that given time, and it's and then you see your friends, your family doing it too, like just eating whatever they want at any given time. And not caring.
So
and like
what allowed you to like finally, like, because you did ultimately like make the shift, because you didn't get ripped by messing up on the weekends. In the end, like we finally got you to a place where you're like, you drew the line. You're like, I'm not fucking around. I'm hitting the goal. I'm getting shredded. So what enabled you? Like, of course, I struggle. Food is a lifelong struggle, right? But with that aside, in that period when you got shredded, how did you overcome that?
I think it was once I hit the scale and saw I was at like 145. I was like, holy shit! I only have like 5 pounds left to reach the mark, to cut the 20. And right there is kind of like, dude, 5 pounds. Like I could, if I'm really religious on this diet and follow the macros to a T, I can make it. And I would watch movies, and like in the night I would chew on quench gum. And like just any kind of low calorie, maybe like kind of high carb food, I would just chew on that and be miserable, like I was wrestling again. But I'm like, I'm right there. So once I saw that I was really close, I just kind of soldiered through and pushed, because I wanted to see too if I could do it. Because I've heard a lot of people, especially wrestling, like guys in college cutting 20 pounds, and I want to see, could I do that? Because that's really tough. And right when I hit that 45, I was like, all right, I won't fuck up on the weekends anymore. I'll have a small breakfast like I do on the weekdays, and kind of have like that one big meal for dinner, and then I'll just have low calorie stuff at the end of the day. But once I hit 45, I think that's where it clicked, where I'm like, okay, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, essentially.
Okay, and let me ask you a different question. Now that so what's great about Hayden and the other guys that have gone through this program is they didn't only lose the fat, but they kept it off. Now, are we saying that me or Hayden or the other guys are still shredded? No, because being shredded, number one, is not healthy to stay shredded. And number two, it's just like your quality of life just goes down the drain. Like you have to have a balance. So all of us have regained some weight, but you can at least see the outline of our abs. So we're not having, we still look good with our shirts off. We at least have the outline of our abs. And some days or some weeks when we do overeat, then the next week we correct. But now we're walking around all year round looking good with our shirts off. So with this new Hayden, right? That now it's like you're back to how you were when you were younger. How does it, when you're looking at a lot of other guys who aren't like that versus you who now are like that, like, do you think anything or do you like, I'm just curious, how do you see the world now that you kind of like corrected that?
It's sort of like if you were to walk into a Costco and you just kind of feel like a Greek god amongst the like absolute like gluttonous pigs. Like it's, I mean, Costco is an extreme example because there's always like very overweight people in there, but you can just sort of see like, and that's a really big thing, Jad, that you talk about is like, I can tell a person's discipline just by looking at them and what their body looks like. So you see that a lot. I see that with like probably 80% of the people that you see out in public. I see like, yeah, this guy hasn't lifted a weight in months. This guy's drinking too much beer. This guy's definitely pounding back fast food probably 3 or 4 days a week. And you could totally see it. And it gives you kind of I guess maybe sort of like an ego boost because it's like, well, I know I'm on my shit and I'm on my game and I'm making sure that I put him almost always as clean as I can, fucking food into my body. And that's always going to make a difference. And like you said too, like women notice you when you walk in the room. If you're walking in the room not looking like those guys, not looking overweight, that's speaking some level of volumes right there,
100%. Yeah, and that's like another major blind spot in today's society with men is like most guys tell me, "Oh, Jad, well, I'm not that bad." And let me tell you this, guys, when you get a six-pack, you've looked at your body in such detail that now you're looking at other guys that are not bad and you see that, oh, they look a lot worse than they realize. I'm not saying this to make you guys feel bad about yourselves, but I am saying this so you can wake up and say, "Oh, I'm kidding myself." And look, the big $1 million question, why aren't women choosing me? Why are women ignoring me? Because you're fat or because you're average. I'm a 10. Why am I going to go for your average ass when right next to you is Hayden and he obviously works out and maybe there's a bit of cauliflower on his ear, so that's even better, right? Like, so like you can tell if a guy rolls, wrestles, works out, it's in his energy, if he's lean, if he, so even a lot of men tell me, "Oh, Jad, you're bodybuilding, so am I." And I say, whoa. Don't say like you and I are doing the same thing because I'm bodybuilding and tracking my macros and at 44 have brought my body fat percentage very low. You, my friend, are working out but eating whatever, and when you take your shirt off, yeah, we know there's muscle under there, but it's covered by blubber, but like you're just average. Average looks worse than you think. And for me and Hayden, this is one thing I tell guys is like now after I've taken myself through the six-pack process as well as Hayden and others, now when you get on camera with me, I only see you like the way you're seeing me, right? I know how the rest of your body looks like because you're carrying fat here, you're carrying fat here, so your jawline is less, your skin isn't as vibrant, your energy isn't as vibrant. So like every part of your body looks less good when you have a high fat percentage. So stop being okay with good enough. Oh, I'm not that fat. Most of you aren't that fat. That's your problem. Average is the worst place to be. It's like that analogy, like if you drop a frog in boiling water, it instantly jumps out. But if you put him in like regular temperature water, and then you turn up the heat slowly, it doesn't jump out. I don't think that's actually true, but as an analogy, it works, right? You guys, if nobody's telling you you look like shit, then you're gonna go on another 5-10 years thinking, oh, I'm okay. No, you want to be more attractive, right? Well, then you got to up your standards and listen to someone who understands the game. Listen to guys who understand the game. Hayden is actually out active in the game 2-3 times a week, right? Body matters. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that or riff off of that.
Sure. Sure. Just to riff off that. I mean, we always talk about too how in today's kind of dating marketplace, the women have a monopoly of choice, especially if they're probably between like a 6 and a 10. So if you're not in shape, that's gonna if you're in average shape, that is gonna hurt you tremendously because she is. It's not like I feel like my dad's or maybe your dad's day, whereas like maybe you competed with a handful of people in your town and then maybe the next town over for a girl's affection. Now it's like she could go on any kind of dating app and there's gonna be dozens upon dozens of choices for her to choose from. So you need to stand out and you need to be different, like Jag keeps saying. So that's a big thing. And if you're in shape, that's already like huge. So that's kind of where I feel like you need to set the standard to if you want to at least get a decent foundation for the rest of the difficult journey.
Yeah, and you just reminded me something, which is that status is the most important thing in the game of seduction. And we could argue that also in the workplace, it's tremendously important, right? Humans are very superficial and they're judging you on your status. Let me tell you a quick story of like a mistake I made when I was younger. So when I was younger and I was in the game, of course, I understood that girls respond to status. So I wanted to get more girls. So I went and I bought an expensive 2-seater sports car, which at the time cost around $30,000, which at that time was like a lot. Okay. Like a lot. So I bought that car thinking, okay, now it's going to rain pussy on me, right? Because it's a big status symbol. Well, I lived in Vancouver, and the way Vancouver is built is you can never park right in front of the place you're going to. So I would always park my car like a block down, then walk to the club or walk to the party. So it's as if I didn't even have the car. So I can like literally track this car directly helping me pick up maximum 6 girls. It was a terrible investment, right? And so, but it was a status move, right? But so what's a better status move? If I had at that time focused on getting like extra jacked, right? And ripped, and then walking in the club with my body, you can take your body anywhere. So for you guys right now, you need to understand your body is a status symbol. That's kind of what you were saying, Hayden. You were alluding to that. Like it's a status symbol. And what's great is you're taking this status symbol with you everywhere. It is your representative before you open your mouth. It's your representative when she's looking across the room at you. It's your representative when you walk into the boardroom and you automatically have kind of intimidated and out-alphaed probably 97% or sometimes 100% of the other men in the room because you're more fit than everyone. So whether it's in the workplace or in seduction, this is a very powerful status move because you take your body everywhere. So you guys a lot of you are focused on like, oh, I want to get the car or the fancy this or you can't bring that into the club with you or the house party or whatever. So that's another very important piece that to be honest, like I've always worked out on and off, but it's only now in my 40s that I really like dialed the shit in, and got lean and stayed lean. If I had understood that more in my 20s and 30s, bro, I tell you, like I would have like super prioritized it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never thought of it like that, and I should have. Like, yeah, that is your body is the status you take you everywhere. It's the most accessible piece of status you really have at the end of the day, and that is pretty powerful.
Yeah, your body is your resume to the world, and you are telling everyone with your body how much or how little you respect yourself. And if you're walking around with a regular Joe average body, you're basically telling us, like, yeah, I don't think too highly of myself.
I agree with that.
Okay, Hayden, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure, Jed. Just kind of on that kind of aspect of toughness and going through challenge, which is definitely in line with like body fitness, body health, bodybuilding. There's a great movie that I think people should, especially men, should watch based on a true story called the Cinderella Man. It's with Russell Crowe as the main actor. This was from, I don't know, 2008. It's from a long time ago, but it's a sort of true story of Jim Braddock. He was this down and out boxer in the 1930s during the Great Depression, who basically he was kind of under threat of losing everything. His family, they were potentially going to get separated. Everyone was hungry for work. There was no work. He was in New Jersey. He was working at the docks. He had the last fight he had before the market crash in, I think, in the 30s. Basically, the boxing commission said it was a terrible fight, and they stripped him of his boxing license. So he couldn't even box anymore if he wanted to try and make extra money. But he had a promoter who brought him back into the ring for an exhibition fight, just to help him make some money, and just because he knew he needed it. And at that time, he was thinking about his family because his son had stolen food from their local butcher because his son was afraid that he was going to lose his sisters and his mom and dad because there wasn't enough money or food being brought into the house. And this is in America. This is hard to kind of imagine today because we have so much of all those things right now. But so essentially what happens is he finds this deep sense of motivation and purpose. And he went into that fight without eating. He ate in the locker room. He stole some guys like corned beef and was eating that. He had no food the entire day. He normally would give, they show in the beginning of the film, his plate of ham steak to his kids because his kids were hungry. So this guy was going without food, working wherever he could, and now he's taking this exhibition match. And you can even see in the trailer, his first fight is against the guy who cleared him out and knocked him out previously when he was still a licensed boxer. And they go in, they scrap the first round, and his opponent gets clobbered pretty hard by him. And then when the opponent goes back into the corner, the coach is like, what the hell's the deal here, man? You cleared this guy out last time. And he's like, it's a different guy this time. And that's because Jim Braddock was fueled by this immense sense of purpose that I have to do everything I can to save and protect my family. And for him, boxing once again became that avenue for him to make sure that he provided security for his family. And that was probably one of the most inspiring parts of this film. But you get to see, like, this is a true person. He really exists. He was a real boxer, and he goes through an insane amount of financial, emotional, and then physical strain. He had a lot of injuries coming back into boxing too when he basically won. I believe he won the heavyweight title, but he went through an amount of adversity that is, I think, very, very, very hard, especially as Americans, for us to imagine today. And yes, it was almost 100 years ago, but still, that's not that long ago. And I mean, there's still footage of, I think, his fight with Max Baer, which was the big climactic fight at the end of the film. But he was just deeply driven by a sense of purpose to protect and provide security to his family. And my coach when I was growing up, who kind of got me ready to go to wrestling camp, who basically was in a lot of ways like an older brother or father to me. I consider him to be very similar to that guy because he went through a tremendous amount of emotional and physical adversity in his life. But no matter what, he just kept rolling with the punches. That's the thing. Like, you're going to get knocked down in all these different areas, in seduction, in macronutrients, in bodybuilding. But like the fact that these people kept getting back up, I mean, it's very inspiring. They just kept, no matter what, they knew like my purpose is more important than my setbacks. And they kept moving forward. And I think that's a really good lesson that we should definitely take some notes on, especially as men. And I've always kind of thought like, dang, that I still can't believe like that was a real person who actually lived and kind of overcame an amount of adversity that, quite frankly, if I were in that same situation, I would curl up in a ball and like probably hyperventilate, because there was a point where they were pulling plywood off of old big poster boards to use as kindling and fire to heat their home. Like, just it was just, unbelievable amounts of adversity, and this guy just through that passion and that purpose, which I know you talk about a lot in your content, Jad. He was able to basically become this ultimate underdog that, I know a lot of ways I think the whole country was rooting for him for his fight against Max Baer. So very cool, a very great true story, and I think it's something that's very inspiring. That kind of all I feel like kind of aligns with the topics that we're kind of covering.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you very much. Well said. That also reminds me of a piece that we haven't covered yet today. And like one reason why I got ripped was because I was going through a big financial loss and I needed some kind of therapy, right? And in terms of like, I was pissed, I was sad, I was scared. I had this, unexpected thing happen to me. It wasn't even my fault, but it happened. And the first reaction I had was to eat myself, into like when I was 42, I became like pretty overweight to the point where I'm like, I hope nobody spots Jad T. Jones walking down the street as I'm embarrassed, right? But then at some point I said, okay, this is not working. I was watching porn. I was medicating with food, the typical way we medicate. And then I said, this is not my spiritual truth. I looked at myself in the mirror. My body was a bag of trash. I'm like, this is not me. This is not me. No more, right? And I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this pain into fuel. So the more pain I have, okay, great. That means I have even more fuel. And so that's what I want you, if you're dealing with something in your life, guys, you have two options. You can curl up in a ball, feel sorry for yourself, and turn to the vices. Or you can say, I'm not going to play victim. Instead, I'm going to use this pain as fuel. And when you use that pain into fuel, like Hayden said, you'll become a different kind of man. You become a different kind of motherfucker. When I decided I'm not only going to get a six-pack, I'm going to get straight ripped in my 40s. Because I know people say, oh, that's not possible. You're too old. Your metabolism, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let me show everyone and let me show myself who the fuck I am. Okay? So it was a type of anger, pain that I used. And it's like you're an alchemist. You want to take lead and turn it into gold. You want to turn pain into fuel, which will propel you forward to win. So Hayden has pain, Jad has pain, Mike, John, Billy, and Joe have pain. So what we're telling you here isn't that, hey, when everything's hunky-dory and you feel great, come on over to Jad's program and we'll get you a six-pack. No. It's if you are in the darkest hole, you feel hopeless, you have no fucking self-esteem, you feel unattractive, you feel rejected, maybe you're brokenhearted, maybe you're at the bottom of the bottom and you're like, fuck, what the fuck, like you're just losing purpose, that you are the best candidate to come on the program and get fucking shredded and surprise everyone and be that underdog story, be that comeback story. And everyone's like, damn, how did he do it? He had more pain, so he had more fuel. So thank you, Hayden. That's kind of like reminded me of that whole thing. Like that's another big reason why we track our macros, why we maintain that low body fat percentage, why we continue to suffer in our workouts, in our macros, in our, for your case, your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But guys, don't let the word suffering scare you. Only bitches and guys that don't get it think suffering is bad. No. Physical suffering creates spiritual bliss. Please just speak on that for a bit, Hayden. You're always Brazilian jiu-jitsuing yourself. I'm sure it's painful. So, tell them like, whoa, isn't the pain actually like bliss? And is it like you're being a warrior, being a motherfucking man?
Yeah, so I think of like I always try to well I try to especially when I'm really tired. I think like why am I doing this right now? Why am I going to the gym? I just worked like 10 hours. I don't want to go to the gym. I want to go lay on the couch. I want to do nothing. I want to just sit sit down somewhere and not think. But then I think, well, I remember you said it once, Chad, and I feel like it really clicks because it's like most guys are taught in society to walk on your heels. In grappling, you weren't taught to literally, you have to move on your toes. You need to be ready to sprawl, you need to be ready to take evasive action, and you need to be ready for what your opponent's going to do. So that was huge. And you said walk on your toes like a fighter. It was one of your older videos you talked about that. And that was a big thing for me. And I also know, like, well, is this difficult? And I'm thinking, well, yes, it is. And it's like, oh, well, then I should probably do it. Because if it's difficult in the long term, that's always going to help me. If it's easy, I'm not getting anything out of it. There was a guy, Jocko Willink. He said, discipline can seem like your worst enemy, but in reality, it's your best friend. And that's also why I do it too, to help build that strong sense of discipline. Because ultimately, that's I think that's especially with macronutrient, with calorie counting, that all that stuff, it's another type of discipline. And discipline, in my opinion, that means doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. That's essentially what it is. And the more you do that, the stronger it becomes, and the more different you become. The more you change as a person when you have, when you build upon discipline. So that's the big reason why I do those things. And I think that's ultimately that's the goal. Is always, can I build up the discipline and make myself have more of that? You know.
Yeah, yeah, great. So to riff off of that, it's like uh, when you do something hard, you become different. That's what Hayden said. When you're doing hard things, there's another great saying: you want to be hard, do hard things. Okay, so you want to be a hard motherfucker, go do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, for example, right? So what Hayden is saying is like doing hard things builds character and makes you different. That's what all of you guys want. You want to walk into a room and be noticed for being different, for being superior, for being better. Well, all this hard stuff you're doing is making you into that different kind of man that gets noticed by women, or again gets noticed in the workplace. A guy who lives doing, counting his macros, which is hard. Okay, controlling your food is one of the hardest things. Bodybuilding, hard. Jiu-jitsu, wrestling, hard. When that guy, all that stuff is done in private, right? But then when that guy walks up to you, or even walks in a room, before he says anything, you already know, oh, dude, that guy's different. That guy's harder than all of us in here, right? That's what I want for you. So when I'm coming back and saying, hey, come with me, let's get you a six-pack, let's take you through a hard process so you can become that different, attractive, hard motherfucker that you will love more and everyone else will love more. So it is your truth as a man to be a hard motherfucker. But to be a hard motherfucker, you got to run towards the discomfort. Oh, I got to count my calories and limit my calories and be hungry for months to get a six-pack? Yes. It's going to be the best thing you ever do for yourself. One reason why I'm so passionate about this too is like coming back to my story is when I did get shredded, it was one of the most fulfilling things I did in my life. And I'm still lean, now 44, and it's still like, it's changed the way I feel about myself. It's changed my energy. It's just so much, you just walk around with so much pride. And there's so much pride in knowing that you're doing something that most people tap out on. So in our group, for example, Hayden, we have a separate group where we have a mastermind every week. It's not necessarily specifically about fitness, but we're trying to get everyone in that group to get a six-pack, right? But some guys are struggling, and we're encouraging them. I'm not talking bad about them, but, some guys did it. And then you just become one of the guys that did it. So I want you to be part of that club, the six-pack club, the low body fat percentage club, because that's tangible. We know you have a hard mindset. You're a hard motherfucker. You did it. You controlled the fucking macros, the food. It's very hard. If you did it, then there's a difference. This is like skydiving. Like there's a difference between people that say, "Oh, I think I can skydive," versus, or I'll say it a different way. Like before I did skydiving, I'm like, "Oh, I think I can skydive." That's different than me now having done over 200 jumps. Like I demonstrated it to myself, right? So a lot of you as well, like, yeah, you may say, "Oh, yeah, well, if I really wanted, I could get a six pack." Shut up and show me. Shut up and show yourself. And then I promise you, remember my words, it's going to be one of the most fulfilling, rewarding things you do in your life. And it's not because of the six pack, it's because of the man you had to become in order to get the six pack. Right now, I'm getting memories, Hayden, like, and this is also guys like, "Oh, well, why don't you do it alone?" Sometimes Hayden was slipping and I had to remind him of who the fuck he was. See what I'm saying? He
Very
would
true.
be like, remember, like sometimes he'd be like, "Hey, yeah, you know, like I was doing good, but then midnight I grabbed ice cream or a Snickers," right? And, you know, at the beginning, I was kind of like, "Okay, yeah, try better next time, blah, blah, blah." But then once he was making real progress, then sometimes he'd like sabotage himself. And there was one time I like almost like yelled at him, but like from pure respect and pure love of someone who sees the potential of another person. And I'm like, "Bro, you're better than this. Bring this motherfucker home. Show us who you are. Show yourself who you are." Do you remember that? It was kind of harsh, but I think it was ultimately positive.
Yeah, well, that's what like a coach that cares does, right? They will yell at you because they know that you're way better than you see yourself in that current moment. They know that you can reach a very high potential, and you're only gonna get there. Speaking of kind of like just to riff off the mastermind thing, you can maybe push yourself to 75 to 80%, I believe, as an individual on your own, whether it be a workout or whether it be any kind of goal you're trying to go for. Scientifically, I believe they like prove that. But if you're in a group or you have an individual coach that is coaching you through the process, they're going to get you that last 15%. They're going to help you push and make it towards that goal because you have like an exterior kind of motivation that is trying to get you over the hump, and that's a really important part of it. And that's why the mastermind I think is so important, and you shouldn't go in at this process alone.
Yeah, yeah, nice. So I was super proud when he finally brought it home. I'm like, "God damn." And one thing actually I want to say in this interview is like, we're gonna like we put up the pictures at some point, maybe at the beginning of this interview or throughout, like during the editing. What I want to say to you guys is that Hayden sucks with a camera. So he actually was more ripped than you see in these pictures. I tried to get him like a couple of versions of the pictures, but so he didn't do himself justice. Like as good as these pictures look, he was even more ripped than that. I just want to give you that extra credit because you got like shredded. Okay, so yeah, he took it all the way, which was really exciting. So with that, if you're interested in looking into the program, you'll see a link somewhere on this page or below the video. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I always enjoy the wisdom you share, Hayden. You always have a bunch of great stories and references, and you really delivered again today. So I thank you very much. I also thank you for delivering the result. Because me as a coach, it's not just like, I'm just like, "Oh, you paid me and then I don't care what." No, I want you to actually get the result. So I'm super proud of you, and I'm super proud that we're in the same club. The six pack macros look good with our shirt off club, and I want all of the community to be in the same club because I know it's there's only upside, no downside to it. So yes, thank you for taking time to give this interview, and I'm sure the guys were really inspired by it. So parting words for the audience.
Oh, all right, you're putting me on the spot here.
Okay, let me guide you a bit more. So for a guy right now who's maybe out of shape and telling himself that, "Oh, well, maybe other guys can do this, but I can't because of my age, my metabolism, whatever. What would you tell a guy like that?
That's a lot of those excuses we all hear, and you kind of need to decide, are you going to believe those things or not? Because Jad, you're like 44 and you're extremely lean and extremely ripped. So it's not true in a majority of cases. A lot of times that's just society programming. And I mean, if you go in alone, you're probably going to succumb to those beliefs, those limiting beliefs. That's the biggest issue. Is those are limiting beliefs. If you go in and at it with purpose, with a plan, and you have the will to execute it, because you're gonna fall down sometimes. You ultimately are going to stumble, like we all do. We're human beings, and it's okay just as long as you hop back on the horse. But if you're older and you think your metabolism is not going to be strong enough, when you get on this program, things will start to change gradually, not quickly, because real change takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of discipline. But it will change if you go in with a team and you have a plan and a strategy. And I think that's ultimately the most important part. Anything people are telling you that don't do it, like if they didn't do it, but they're telling you, oh, you can't do it because A, B, and C. What do they know? They never did it. They never walked the walk, because like talk is the cheapest commodity. So if they didn't prove by their actions that you can't or can do something, why are you listening to them anyway? In my opinion.
100%. Yeah, yeah. It's like that's a great point. Yeah, if someone who's not ripped and jacked tells you something, just in your head, ask yourself like, okay, well, if I listen to you, am I gonna look like you? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and not listen to you then. So yeah, great, great. All right, brothers. Thank you, Hayden. Thank you for everyone who's watching. We'll see you in the next interview. We'll look forward to seeing your comments below. Take care.
Thanks,
Peace.
Chad.